Hello, everybody, and welcome into today's episode of the Top Cut Yu-Gi-Oh! Podcast. My name is Sunny. I am here hosting with some guy in the room. Who are you?
I'm Caleb, as per usual.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
Unforgettable.
Well, hey now, don't discredit yourself. And of course, I'm sure you saw in the title of the video as well as the description, we have a very, very special guest returning. What is up, Mr. Hawkman? How are you?
Hello, it is me, Giant Skyhawk, aka Hawkman, aka Large Avian Individual, and I'm happy to be back.
Uniquely qualified experience and unique qualifications to talk about what we want to talk about today, which is some really cool alternative formats to people that maybe are tired of general advanced format. But before we get into all of that, we want to do some quick play news.
Oh yes, beginning. First off, the Speed Duel box GX has been pushed back from February 18th to the 25th. Less than a week,
Exactly a week.
Yeah, exactly a week, not that big of a deal. I'm thinking either due to some kind of shortage somewhere, or maybe that there's something else that they were going to release on the 18th and forgot, and now pushing it back.
Oh, so they just posted an update in the YGO organization. It's come to our attention that distributor fact sheets have already used the new date from the beginning. So this likely means that change of date is simply a correction rather than a delay. It's not actually a delay. It's just
A correction.
yeah. So
There we go.
when the date got leaked, they leaked the wrong date. So
Fair enough. Let's see.
So,
continue.
I do want to talk for a second about the Speed Duel GX box.
Go ahead.
That's a really cool box, and it really has the opportunity for some really cool reprints that are legal in constructed advanced format.
Yes, all the Speed Duel cards can be used in regular old Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah.
But not the other way around.
That is
Right.
true. And also with the Speed Duel GX box, I know a lot of, just anecdotally, I know a lot of people that kind of found their way back to the game because of the previous box set that it did. Excellent price point, literally has like 8 playable decks and a bunch of cool cards in it. There is so much potential, even if they don't do like amazing reprints for TCG, because they don't like really have to. They could print some older cards that haven't seen prints in a while. And the fact that they're updating Speed Duels like this instead of the booster boxes is so amazing. It's
For
such
sure.
a wonderful step from Konami to see them do stuff like this. It's like Duel Devastator, except for the whole format. It's so awesome.
I single-handedly credit MBT for this.
Fair.
I mean, he literally did an entire video saying, listen, I like Speed Duel, and this is why you should too, and here's what Konami should do now, a Speed Duel GX box. Do this, Konami. And Konami a month later was like, hey, so we just decided, not saying we were influenced, we decided to do a Speed Duel GX box. Just off the cuff. Sounds cool, right?
Like one thing I would like to see is maybe some alternate arts for all the elemental heroes, but like all the alt arts, but it's common.
I mean, even if they,
That's kind of spicy.
even if they do it, yeah, but I mean, even if they do it as like an upgraded rarity.
Well, because the original alt arts we got for all the elemental heroes were all secrets.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so like lower rarity versions of it. Maybe another alt art Cyber Dragon would be cool.
Speed Duel Ultimate Rares?
Ooh. Maybe.
The Speed Duel like physical card prints are already really high quality. If there were like, imagine if there were alties in this box, would sell like hotcakes.
Oh my
Oh,
god,
yeah.
dude, that's the best. That just popped into my head. That's the best idea I may have ever had.
Oh yeah, no. Nowhere would be able to keep it in stock if they did that.
And because the card, I mean, this is such a cool opportunity just to give generically good old cards a fresh, up-to-date printing, like you said. But it's just the rarities that they can do all this. Like, think about this. They reprinted Dekoichi as a super rare in the Speed Duel box.
Which was really nice.
Right, it's great for GOAT format. And those super rares are crazy expensive now, by the way. I don't know if anybody realizes that.
Yeah, because they sold out. The Battle City box sold out everywhere.
Right. I don't know. It's such a cool time for not just Speed Duel, but I think for the game as a whole. Like, this is the best possible way to reprint just generically really old cards that haven't seen a reprint in like 15 years. That just it's like, oh well, we haven't had a way or reason to reprint this card. Well, now we have an entire dedicated GX set that everything here is legal for advanced also, so we can do whatever we want, you know.
Ooh, an ultra rare Master of Oz.
I
would
would love that.
That would just be cool.
The second best Necrofusion target, by the way, is Master of Oz.
Okay.
But
Stop me
hey,
if this wouldn't be the. I'm not sorry not to cut you off, Skyhawk. Stop me if this wouldn't be the coolest thing you've ever seen. Alt art polymerization in ultimate rare.
Ooh.
It would make sense for the
Spicy.
hero decks, right?
Spicy.
I think about how good that artwork would look in ulti.
Also, just like Konami, Metamorphosis. Please,
Yes.
please.
Yes.
Is that a GX card or is that a?
It doesn't matter. This is
Yeah,
like
just-
the only opportunity to print it. Please just print Metamorphosis.
Yeah, but do you really want to inject Metamorphosis into the Speed format?
Yes.
Absolutely. The
That's
extra
you
deck is
there.
hard to utilize
Do you
anyway.
want think of that.
Near impossible to utilize. Near impossible.
You use skill cards, right?
Well,
I
yeah,
don't
but then
think-
that's
I don't-
skill cards plus a 4-card hand. Metamorphosis is part of your hand, so it's kind of balanced by the fact
Yeah.
that you start with way less cards.
And I guess you also only got. I guess. How big is the extra deck in Speed Duel?
I think it's 5 cards.
Five?
Okay, it might be 5.
Oh, it's only 5. They can reprint meta. I don't care. It's only 5 cards.
Yeah,
They can only have a
exactly,
3-card
yeah.
field. What does it matter?
Oh yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot to be said for Metamorphosis in Speed Duel, though. This would be a great.
Oh, extra deck is.
Go ahead.
Sorry to pop in. Extra deck is 6
well, that's
cards.
fine.
Yeah, and that's still perfectly fine. But yeah, like this would be a great place to put Metamorphosis, so that way GOAT players have a new printing of Metamorphosis, because there hasn't been one in decades.
Pretty close to decades, yeah. I mean, that's pretty close. Pretty close. Okay, you can go ahead and move on to the.
So we're gonna sticking with product information. Next up, we now know that Magician Salvation, Pure Light, and Piercing the Darkness from the 2021 Megatens is going to be Ultras. In addition, Ultra AA Zeus is going to be in the 10s. Ooh.
Cool, I guess. The Zeus reprint is welcome, and I'm glad that I think Zeus was one of the cards that had the highest chance to maybe get excluded from the tins, just because Phantom Rage is like on the more recent end
Yeah.
of sets that could have been included in the tins. So I think it's awesome to see that here. It does worry me that I feel like Zeus being in here might mean something like an Access Kotalker misses the tins, and that would be scummery of the highest order. From Konami.
Of the highest
Also,
order.
the other 3 cards,
Say that.
nobody cares. They all suck.
Well, I'm thinking it back.
Everything about what you just said was awesome.
Yeah. Okay, I'm thinking though is that if they don't put access code in the 10s, they're going to put access code in Eldorado.
Ultimate.
Yeah, but that still also is
Well,
bad,
they
I
could.
think.
Well, the problem there is that it's a
Like-
gold rare.
If we're talking El Dorado, I think the better space for that, like Access Code Talker, should be in the tins,
Yeah.
and just so that there can be like an ultra printing of it rather than a gold printing of it. Evil Hero, a dusted gold.
Oh, that's 100%. Yeah, it definitely needs.
How
Like
does that never crossed my mind? That's
that
poggers.
that absolutely has to be an Eldorado. It just
It makes too much sense. If they can do gold, they can do a dusted gold.
Yeah, I think Bane as well probably, but I mean back to the tins. The early leaks that have happened, I don't know if you guys have seen on Reddit from a little while back. Somebody was getting packs in like
yeah.
Dawn
Yeah, they
of
were getting
Majesty
comments.
boosters.
Yeah, they were getting
or
comments
in
from the
boxes.
tins in Dawn of Majesty.
Yeah, and the set numbers kind of is making some speculation run wild about some stuff that might miss the tins. For example, Access Code Talker, it's likely that either Access Code or Animadorned isn't going to be in the tins, or like basically something in that slot based on set numbers, or there might be something big excluded from Rise of the Duelist, which would suck really bad. But a lot of product is coming like 2 weeks in a row, so that kind of mitigates the effect
Right,
if something is missing from the tins. As a side note, I think it's really funny that the OCG revealed the 10 cards before they were revealed in the Yuki
Yeah.
video. It just be that way with their product
Yeah,
delays, I guess.
Like you said, it'd be like that.
It is what it is.
So, okay, I know we're past it, but I can't. I'm built this way. I can't help but go through TCG and look at old GX sets to see what's like crazy expensive and stuff. Some of the Destiny Hero cards would be great for it to be reprinted right here.
Oh yeah, definitely.
With all the new Destiny Hero support coming in Burst of Destiny, they could reprint some cool Destiny Hero cards. Like Destiny Hero Dasher, I think, is one of the ones that's seeing a ton of use in the new deck, stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Just thought, you know,
Oh, yeah.
you could even do like an ultra rare baby Ceresaurus.
Foil baby for a Tyranno Hasselberry deck. I would buy the product instantly, and I do not care very much about playing speed.
Let me give you a crazy thought. What if baby was ulti?
See, the problem is I would want ultimate rare ultimate conductor Tyranno before the ultimate rare baby. Just solely
Fair.
for fun. But it would still be very good. I think it would be. I think there will be an Aster Phoenix deck for sure. Like, there's got to be an Aster Phoenix.
There's got to be.
Yeah.
And like if they were to do the decks, if I had to guess, it's going to be Jaden, Aster Phoenix. Can't think of the dude's name. The dude with Crystal Beasts.
Rescue Cat can also get reprinted here.
Rescue Cat. Yeah, Jesse. It's going to be a Jesse deck.
Roids.
Yeah, there's going to be a Cyrus. They might skip Cyber Dragon
They won't skip Skyhawk.
only because we're already getting a Cyber Dragon structure deck.
I don't think it matters.
But
Basically. We still might not even get that Cyber Dragon structure, right? I mean,
fair. But it is Speed Duel, so they'll probably do a Speed Duel version of it with like Cyber Eltanin and Cyber Phoenix.
we could get Glad Beasts if they would just automatically be the best deck in the format.
Yeah.
Now, the extremely based reprint that we could see in this product would be Elemental Hero Air Neos, but for other reasons, I don't think that's going to
Crystal
happen.
Beasts?
Yeah, it's talking about Jesse.
Okay.
Rainbow Dragon and Crystal Beasts.
Volcanics.
Yeah.
That would just be fun.
Yeah. That'd be fun.
Will they do an Axel Brody with 8 slots? They might actually.
Yeah.
I can see
Payne,
that
we're looking
happening.
at you.
We're nearing 1,000 days.
Yeah.
But almost 1,000 days.
He tweets every day. New volcanic support when. Could you imagine if they actually release like a new volcanic card here?
Oh my god.
It's a skill card. He can't use it in the TCG. Does it reset his counter or not?
Probably not. So technically speaking, if we're talking Pain lore, the one raw support card is actually a Blaze Accelerator card. So technically they did release volcanic support, but it's not really volcanic support, and he kept going. So I doubt that a speed duel skill lets reset counter.
I know it would have to be something like a new volcanic monster or like a volcanic spell card.
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
So, do we have any more quick play news?
One more. Lastly, today was supposed to be MBT's Chalice Line Monthly Tournament. However, due to an issue, they canceled the whole thing for this month.
A set of issues.
That earlier you said, Mr. Hawk, that you have some insider info on that.
Yeah, I won't get too much to sit here on this, but I can say like the specific reason that there are problems. So, the wonderful Luna, aka Alpha Cretin, and a few other people, I believe, have contributed to the creation of a bot called the MC. And the reason that challenge was the pairing software that the Chalice Monthly uses is because it has API support. So they can use a bot to input stuff into challenge and have it work out and report stuff to everybody through Discord. Problem is, sometimes challenge, being a software that is developed and run by rats, it means that sometimes the wires get chewed up. So not only has it been like a month since the last support request, and Challenge has responded with literally nothing. It's just like, our team is away right now. So like it just like it seems like they just don't even want to bother trying to fix it. But turns out today, the whole system just stopped doing things. Last month there was a problem where it ended the tournament after 2 rounds, despite there being like 128 plus entrants. It just decided that the tournament was done because there was some issue where there wasn't apparently a proper pairing option where people would play unique players despite it being a round of 3. So that eventually got fixed day of due to some amazing ingenuity from a separate, not distant coder related, but coder and Cretin and Rebby and everyone else. But yeah, so Challenge sucks. Don't use it if you can help it. And there is a side tournament happening, just in case anybody's listening who missed it. You can message me. The prizing is being put out by MBT. That would have been put out for the Chalice Monthly. It's being run by Burrito Man 93, a good friend of mine. So feel free to like message me on Discord or join the Top Cut server, which is probably linked in the podcast.
Sure.
It's happening this coming Sunday. Yeah, it's no cap on entrance, same pricing as MBT would have offered for the tournament. So yeah, he is trying to make it right, but it's not going to be like a Chalice Monthly because it's just too much work to like schedule out a stream time and email Challenge to get no response.
So that would be Sunday, August 29th. Okay, cool.
Yes.
Just so people know, what is the pricing for the Chalice Monthly on a general basis? I don't know exactly what it is.
It kind of depends. I don't know off the top of my head exactly what the pricing for this will be. I'm not sure if it changes a little bit because of the changing circumstance. Usually it's like first place gets like a trophy and a box of sealed product, like a booster box kind of thing. So I think for this one it would be Dawn of Majesty, but I'm not sure exactly what that is. I know top 8 or top 16, depending on entrance, get MBT Chalice Monthly Field Centers. I have one. They are excellent. Really cool custom art, and the Orcas are done really well. And then I believe like 2nd through 4th also get some form of Yu-Gi-Oh product. I think it's like a mini box of some kind. Like I know in the past there was like Dual Overload or Ghost from the Past. So some sort of like mini product for 2nd through 4th.
I always wondered how you got that Field Center, dude. That thing is so nice looking.
And now we know.
It's very cool. Enter the Chalice Monthlies and get top 4 with Fluffles, and then you too can have a Chalice Monthly Field Center.
That is awesome. Here we're gonna take a quick ad break, and then we'll come back and we're gonna talk all about the alternative formats.
Hey everyone, it's Caleb, also known as Jam, the man, here with our sponsor, Anchor. Anchor makes making a podcast incredibly easy. It has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, then distribute your podcast for you so you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many, many more. They even let you make money from your podcast right from the very start. Everything you need to make your own podcast. The best part? It's free. So go and download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm and get started today. And now, back to the podcast.
All right. Well, thank you so much for Caleb for telling us about Anchor. So, we do want to take a few minutes to explain what we mean when we say alternative formats. So, for those that don't know, as it turns out, there is more than one way to play Yu-Gi-Oh! You can always play advanced format, where there is always a million different ways to play it. There's a million different, decks, combinations, and everything else, yada yada. But to the side of that, there are a ton of alternative formats. Very few of them are official, and the ones that are official are not really supported, but they exist. But the real fun is in all the alternative unofficial formats, which have immense community support. So there's a few things we're going to talk about. First, we're going to talk about the official alternative formats. Then we're going to talk about the speed Speed Duel. Then we're going to talk about the unofficial alternative formats, starting with retro formats, and we're going to finish up with some very, very select special formats outside of retro that are fun formats, and that'll be things like Highlander or Histlander, which is, or even progression series formats, which are the Highlander stuff is kind of Skyhawk specialty, which is the whole reason we brought him in. But as it turns out, he's knowledgeable about a lot of things. So,
Well, thanks. I'm
Of
very
course.
glad.
So obviously, like we said, there's the official advanced format. That's gonna have the most support out of anything. It's what Konami wants you to play. It's what all the advanced cards are legal for. It's what everything works for. The next format, the first official supported by Konami, quote unquote, giant air quotes, technically they claim they support it format, is traditional, which is just the worst. Just terrible.
Basically, you just take the ban list and put all those banned cards at one.
That's it. That's
it.
traditional. It sucks. And if you really want to play it, good luck. There are no Konami official tournaments for it anymore. I haven't done one in probably 15 years. So if you want to do that, you can go play once every few months in Farfa's tournament that he does sometimes, or on TV.
Yep. I was just going to mention Farfa's tournament is, I think, pretty much the only place there's any kind of organized traditional format.
And that
I
think is, and I think that's there for the memes.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's not even there like, yeah. It's not even there
entirely a
like, oh, traditional format's awesome. Nope, it's a joke. Literally a joke.
Giant meme.
So what we're saying is, it's there. Don't play it. If you want to play an officially supported alternative format, I recommend Speed Duel. I would say this technically an alternative format.
I think
Oh,
I would say it's
absolutely.
an format. Speed is like, I would consider Duel Links to be an alternate format. If Duel Links is an alternate format, Speed Duel is. You've changed the card pool and you've changed
Right,
the
and
rules.
it's still all
Sounds
it's
like a
still
new
all-
format to me.
Yu-Gi-Oh cards, right? So like,
Yeah.
I mean, like when you say you change the rules, I mean you change like deck size, hand size, things,
Field size.
yeah, things like that. How the first turn works, I think, is different. Spoiler: I know very little about Speed Duels actually, but I think the first turn does work. Though there's no main phase 2 at all.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of. But it is a fun little format, from what I understand. That I'd be very interested in getting into if it wasn't actually not that cheap to play. So
Because you have to use speed duel cards, and
they're as previously mentioned, they've been bought out a lot because it turns out they're good for advanced and other retro formats like Goat.
Oh yeah, especially the Battle City box. That was an amazing box set.
Right.
Yeah. And also, the tournaments themselves have actually kind of been growing. Ever since the start of the remote duel extravaganzas, like almost since the beginning, there have been side speed duel events. It started out very slow, but once people realized that the prizing for them was kind of cracked, a lot of people started getting into speed duels. Like, you could get, if you won or got second or third or whatever, you were getting like OTS speed duel tournament packs, and you can pull some real expensive cards out of those.
You
Plus,
can
the mats are cool.
like
and
crazy expensive stuff. I think I had an OTS tournament pack 2 Speed Duel, like Speed Duel tournament pack 2 King of the Skull Servants, and it's like they're like $150, $180, something like that.
Yep. Well, because I think for some of them, it's like their only foil print. It's also just like they're hard to get. It's collectible cards. Like TCG Player, like Tournament Pack 1, the Blue Eyes is like $200. The Dark Magician is like 120. Red Eyes is like 60. Like almost all of the foils out of there
Disrespect on
$20
Dark
plus.
Magician is criminal. What?
Dark Magician.
Didn't they do that in one of like, what was it, Zara's Fifth Rate Duelist, her thing? It was like custom ban list, and you could like pay $1. It was a charity thing. You could pay $1 and ban a card.
Some Yep, somebody unbanned Thunder Dragon Colossus, and in response, I banned all the main deck.
I was
Thunder
wondering
Dragons.
how that happened.
That's hilarious.
Okay, I did see that Dark Magician was banned. There were certain Fluffle cards banned.
Yeah, that was to preempt.
That
me
was to
from
preempt
destroying the
me.
entire segment.
You're not wrong.
Pot of Greed and Magical Scientist, I think, were both put at like 3.
Oh my god.
Engage was put to 3, but I think Ray was banned.
Oh,
They made some
It was a blast,
really
so-
like could have been playable decks. Like they brought cards from those decks way off the ban list, and then just turned around and hyper banned the most important cards from the deck. Really funny way to make certain decks unplayable.
yeah. That'd be like taking a Dolce and just banning Chateau or something like that.
Oh, there were Madolche cards on that list.
Yep.
So
Anyway,
Yeah.
Speed Duels. I personally haven't played it. It's very cool. The community is actually growing quite a lot, and I think the new product will expand it even further. The product lineup for Speed Duels shifting to these like boxes that come out with set
amazing.
product in them is a really, really sick way to not only get people into the format, but to make the format
without a doubt.
accessible.
And plus, like you said, it's okay. I was about to just say the same thing you just said, but it's true. It's such an amazing way, like you said, to get people into the format. Like, I'm really thinking about going to Walmart next time when those release in February. Like, I'm probably going to Walmart and I'm probably going to buy several of those boxes just so that I can start playing Speed Duels. I think it's just a cool format. I'm kind of into it. Plus, the prize support is kind of cracked.
So I was considering doing the same.
Mm-hmm.
So past that, like you said, Duel Links is a thing technically that you could do. Other than that, though, I don't know of any other. I guess technically for a while there was some support for sealed play from Konami.
Yeah, with the battle packs.
Right, which they even translated it to top cut of a couple of YCSs were played entirely sealed.
Yeah.
Yeah, they stopped doing that real quick.
Although I heard that some of the higher level
one.
players like loved it because it truly like in a lot of ways really put a lot of emphasis on deck building.
Oh yeah.
I agree. I feel like my opinion, I guess, is that I think it should have been a separate event. I don't really like the concept of merging them. I think it's cool that they did it, but I think like when you build a constructed deck and you're like, okay, I'm going to go to this event and do well based on my constructed deck, and then you make it to the top and you're like, surprise, all of your preparation sucks. I think they probably found that to be a little bit too crappy, but I think it's cool they did it for a bit. There is one other technically officially supported format by Konami. Are either of you aware of Generation?
No, I'm not.
Never heard of it.
Right.
A lot about
so what Generation Duels is? Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. Yeah, they ran a couple of side events for this at some YCSs. But what Generation Duels is it's like 5 separate custom ban lists for like 5 different eras of Yu-Gi-Oh! It only goes up to Arc 5, which shows you again how supported it is. They haven't updated it. But there's Yu-Gi-Oh!, GX, 5Ds, Zexal, and Arc 5 ban lists. So for example, on the original DM era ban list, some updated. Here's the forbidden list. Here's like the updated banned cards. All other effect monsters that aren't listed on the list are banned. All fusion monsters are banned. All pendulum monsters are banned. All ritual monsters, all synchro monsters, and all Xyz monsters are banned.
That's a hilarious.
And then there's a list of cards.
Way.
Yeah, and there's a list. For example, Assault Core is legal. There's literally a list of updated monsters.
It sounds like
you're allowed
a precursor
to
actual speeds.
Yeah. And so how this works, except it's like advanced rules. So you pick an era to enter the tournament with. And so the eras of Yu-Gi-Oh! All play against each other. So like as like a context example of like, so for example, the 5Ds era. if you play the 5Ds era, all fusion, pendulum, ritual, and Xyz monsters are banned. You can play synchro monsters. And then there's a bunch of like other custom cards that get to like come off the list that are in different quantities and some that are down. So like for example, Charge the Light Brigade is at 2 because of how good it is with some of the cards that work there. You can play Soul Charge at 1. So Soul Charge is legal at 1 if you play 5Ds. And so they give them like different like tools and restrictions. It's a really, really cool format and never took off because they supported it with like 2
Okay,
side
so
events.
it sounds super cool, but I feel like there's also probably one. I feel like that would create a like unless they balanced it just perfectly. I think that there probably would create an issue with like a certain like one era being better than others, just like by inherent nature, right?
Yes.
Like I think that Xyz and Pendulum would just be like inherently better, depending on the card pool, I guess, than 5D GX and
Especially
Yes.
DM.
Now, there are some very cool ways to exploit the format. MBT actually being one of the people who pioneered it. At a Generation Duel side event, he played DM era Pacifist the Phantasm City because he could play Pacifist with access to a whole bunch of the broken staple cards because the ban list specifically said all other effect monsters were banned. So he played Pacifist the Phantasm City with a bunch of the broken staple cards.
So
and that
what
was how-
staple
that's
cards
how
when you
it
say broken
worked.
staple cards are like? Do they like if you're playing specifically as DM, like do you get pot of greed?
I believe so, yeah. So basically, like, limited to 1. Here's a list of spells. Book of Moon, Book of Taiyu, Brain Control, Burial from a Different Dimension, Card Destruction, Card of Safe Return, Change of Heart,
Oh.
Chicken Game, Cold Wave, Confiscation, Delinquent Duo, Foolish Burial, Giant Tornado, Graceful Charity, Harpy's Feather Duster, Heavy Storm, Last Will, Mind Control, Mirage of Nightmare, Monster Gate, Monster Reborn, Painful Choice, Pot of Greed, Premature Burial, Raigeki, Reasoning, Snatch Steal, Temple of the Kings, Forceful Sentry, and Upstart Goblin are all limited to 1. So you can play one of each of those. And then for traps, you can play Wall of Revealing Light, Vanities, Trap Dust Shoot, Time Seal, Transmigration Prophecy, Skill Drain, Sixth Sense, Royal Oppression. The list goes on and on. Crush Card Virus, Pre-Errata, Importer, Last Turn. Just all the stupidly broken cards, you can play them at 1. But you can't play any effect monsters aside from the ones that are on the list.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's really cool, but it was never supported, and so there's no play for it.
Yeah.
That ever happened.
Again, it sounds really fun.
Just
They got to support it.
There's no way to play it.
So who wants to DM MBT and tell them that he needs to start doing tournaments for this format?
This would be like I feel like this would be like more Farfa's job. Like people show up with total
I'm with it.
Because technically, the other problem with the way that the format is constructed is, technically speaking, every era.
Oh,
can play
true.
Link monsters.
Oh.
There would have to be a new list for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to the. I guess let's start talking about some retro formats. So from here we have obviously the best format, the greatest format of all time, the GOAT format. Which a lot of people have come around to hating. A lot of people really hate this format now. So, I mean, it was the format that everyone's like, it's the best. It's the most skillful format. And people have like optimized the format in a way now that it's just kind of sacky. Turns out just like advanced. And so as it turns out, when you take a format that has like 41 ofs, and you start like optimizing the card pool and the deck lists, and then there's suddenly like a tiered, like these decks are literally just better. It's not all the same deck. It's this deck is a coherent strategy, and this deck is a coherent strategy, and this deck is a different one, and it's just when you have that and you optimize it in the way that it has been optimized, turns out all those powerful DM staples like Pot of Greed and Graceful and Duo are pretty broken. So a lot of people just kind of hate the format because it has become sacky. So
Yeah, unfortunate.
still cool though. Still a good format that has immense amounts of people that play the format on a regular basis. Tons of tournaments. You can go to goformat.com and literally find daily tournaments, hourly tournaments to play this format anytime you want. You can find money tournaments, you can find world championship level tournaments, whatever you want, it exists for this format. In fact, this format might literally have more support than advanced in some ways.
Yep. And something just to point out is that even though, like, in some sense, the format itself is solved, there's a lot of metagame shifting that happens. I remember reading some articles about somebody, like the person who basically came up with like the reasoning gate OTK sack deck. What was like, it was basically a response to metagame, but that kind of fell into the meta because people shifted. Like, for an example of how like wonky this is, I've got pulled up the European 3v3 championships that happen, and it's got like the top 4 deck lists for each teams. Two of the first place team, 2 of their lists are playing 3 copies of Jar of Greed.
Yeah.
Because it's
it's awesome because you can set like 3 back row and your opponent opens and like, oh sweet, heavy storm. It's like, cool, chain 2 Jar of Greed.
Yeah, and it's been interesting, like evolution wise, like Solemn Judgment back when like the game was played was a lot worse. But Solemn Judgment sees a lot more play now, it seems, because people have realized that being able to say no to anything is kind of nuts.
Right.
So, like, because previously, like, I know, like, the mindset a long time ago, like, and I mean a long time ago, like, back when these cards were printed, was like, the life point cost is a lot. And then people, even in GOAT, have realized, life points matter a bit more here, but they still don't matter when you get
it's still a resource.
No, it's very much a case of 4,000 life points is half my life points is well worth just saying you don't get to do anything.
I would argue it's actually even better in Go format because there's so much of like tap you for 15 pass, tap you for 17 pass, and there's a lot more opportunity to use it at a lower life point cost. I know that sounds dumb, but like realistically, the games in Go format almost always go just a ton more turns.
And yet still you end up spending less time dueling.
Oh, for sure, because the play is so optimized, right? So
like you look at your hand and go, okay, normal summon this, set some back row, pass. That's my turn.
Yeah.
The most complex turn I've ever seen was activate reasoning.
You want a full reasoning gate combo.
Yeah, yeah. Or that.
Yeah. And this I think.
Yeah, or like that. No, that's good. And like that weird rescue cat deck that a friend of ours.
Yeah, of course.
Which could also OTK you.
Yeah.
I think part of this conversation kind of gets to the heart of why stuff like GOAT continues to exist and alternate formats exist, is because sometimes the TCG doesn't offer the style of play that people want in the game. So something that took me out previously and then brought me back in later once it came back. There are people, I think there are 2 major types of formats in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! There are deck building formats and there are technical play formats. Deck building formats are formats where, because there are a lot of like high roll combo decks or a lot of decks that make very oppressive turn 1 setups or have very strong go second capability, you have to, most of the game itself gets played outside of the game, where you're constructing your main deck to have the right counters in the main through hand traps, or go second cards, or engine pieces, and you're constructing your side deck to beat specific threats. And so most of the actual technical gameplay is happening outside of a match. Whereas something like GOAT, for example, while that element still exists, it is focused a lot more on the actions you take in a match. It's a technical play format. So places like this existing is awesome, because it gives people a place to go do that when the TCG doesn't offer it. So like, for example, if you hated Emancipator Synchro Eldritch format because it was a deck build format and not a technical play format, you can always come back here. Right now, TCG is in a good place, so maybe some of these alt formats might be slowing down, but I'm sure they will grow again. And once we get back to another one of those deck build formats.
Absolutely.
That makes a whole lot of sense, and I never thought about it that way.
And that's why we have you here, Mr. Hawk.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
That's kind of always how I've thought about it. Is that TCG formats have that it's like a tech play to deck building ratio, and we've had a lot of deck build formats, but right now it's not as much of one, which is why I think everybody's saying this is such a good format, is because you can the stuff you do
I would
in
agree with
match
that.
matters a lot more.
Go format's really interesting though, in particular, because while you say it's a technical format, and it is, that without a doubt, there's a lot of high rolly stuff in Goat. I mean,
Sure
like
is.
you can just as easily. In fact, Go format has like 2 to 3 like super competent and viable FTKs. Like might just actually be the best deck in the format kind of thing.
Listen. There was a time, only ever done this once, in my Gearfried Warrior deck, where my opening hand was Gearfried the Iron Knight. All my copies of Smoke Grenade of the Thief and Delinquent Duo.
I mean, it'd be like that sometimes. That's Go format. You rip 5 from your opponent's hand and say sorry. Like, I don't know. Go format is fun. It absolutely is. And it's a very skillful format when you're playing against a skillful deck. But sometimes you end up playing against Library FTK or Empty Jar or
Burn.
or Stall or any of the things you've seen in history of Yu-Gi-Oh that are not fun.
I'm seeing some of the
Now listen. The secret to beating Burn, in my experience, is just always open Mystic Swordsman level 2.
It do be like that sometimes.
And then just keep beating them in the face with it.
That easy. Yeah, I don't know. I think any Yu-Gi-Oh format is going to have those problems, to be honest. But you're right that in GOAT, especially like when you have access to Saki staples, it's like, oh, you drew Delinquent Duo. That makes it a lot harder for me. But it's possible to come back because of the technical play aspect.
Sure.
Although I admit it does frighten me a little bit that I didn't scroll down, and in the 4th place list there are triple Just Desserts, triple Ojama Trio, triple Secret Barrel, and a couple of main deck Gyaku Giray Pandas. That's a bit
So is that
terrifying.
Beast Down Burn?
It looks like it, yeah. It looks like there's Desk Koalas in here, Giant Rat, Gyaku Giray Panda.
That is Beast Down Burn.
There are some lists side decking Berserk
Okay,
Gorilla.
so that is okay. I'm so glad that came up. I love that card. That card's amazing in that format.
Listen. I'm a Warrior main for the format. Berserk Gorilla just ends my career. I love the fact that it's there.
Okay, so some lists. This is so this is why we're talking about it. This is part of the format. So Berserk Gorilla is a great card. It gets over some big time defensive walls in the format. In addition, it just kind of kills a lot of stuff. He's big, which is cool. Sometimes you just need to normal summon 2000 attack. Same reason that Zombira the Dark is actually sometimes relevant, because you can swing over a defense position spy and kill it. But the newest tech choice that I've seen is in actual GOAT control decks, because there's different decks in the format. There's Warrior Toolbox, there's Chaos Warriors, there's Chaos Control, there's Pure Chaos,
Flip Control,
there's GOAT Control, whatever. In GOAT Control specifically, which is the format that the deck that the format is known for, which is actually falling by the wayside like a lot, because it just loses to Chaos, which loses to Warrior, and it's a triangle. It's a revolving format. Anyway, people are teching Chaos Command Magician in their GOAT Control decks, because Parshath is cool, but Chaos Command Magician is bigger, and he is still a 1 tribute light target. Hilarious.
No, that kind of makes sense. I don't have that much experience in playing GOAT,
I enjoy it.
to be frank, but I imagine if GOAT control is fading out of the format, and Parshath specifically is good against the GOAT tokens, then maybe you would stop playing Parshath, because you're going to run into the mirror.
People are also no longer playing Ashura Priest in a lot of senses. A lot of people are siding or cutting altogether tribe infecting virus. And so hilariously, what happens is Chaos has an amazing matchup against Goat. So Chaos becomes super prevalent in the format and is the best deck in the format. This was as of 6 months ago, 8 months ago, maybe a year ago at most. Over time, though, the format has shifted because Warrior murders Chaos. So
kind of hard to stick a BLS whenever I can just shrug, normal summon,
Exile Force.
Exile Force and get rid of it.
Yeah, or DD Warrior Lady, whatever you need to do. I mean, you have infinite options. Plus, Warrior's entire game kills the flip effect monsters that a lot of times Chaos Control relies on. So, like Blade Knights, Mystic Swordsmen, things like that. So, those, I mean, you have 2 Rhoda, which is awesome. Plus, they play a large back row game. Lots of 1-for-1 removal in the form of things like Sakurazu Armor. Almost always on Triple Solemn Judgment. So, Warrior has an amazing matchup against Chaos. So recently, Warrior has become like, if not the best deck, then maybe like the second best deck. And as a result, hilariously, Goat Control has an awesome Warrior matchup. So as Warrior gets better, Goat gets actually better, and then it makes Chaos better. And it's a hilarious triangle that'll never stop spinning, that'll never stop rotating because the format doesn't ever change as far as the card pool and ban list goes.
Oh yeah, so pretty much once you got your playset of cards, you're set.
Yeah, that's the core of the format, is that like you just gotta get the cards. And they used to not be very expensive.
Some of them are now really expensive.
Yeah.
Some of them. There's a bunch of them that are still like dirt. You can get a pot of greed for like 25 cents.
Can you though?
I think. Because mine are, because the one I have is only worth like $2. Graceful Charities are fairly cheap.
They have copies of those that are super cheap.
Yeah, Graceful Charity and Pot of Greed are just a pair of cards that are dirt cheap. Mystic Tomatoes and Shining Angels are very common. Have 101 reprints.
101 uses.
Yeah, 101 uses, 101 reprints. So, dirt cheap.
Pot of Greeds are $1 or more for all of them, but that's still not a lot, I guess.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. I think it's like some of the like random staples that just haven't been printed in a bajillion years.
Metamorphosis.
Delinquent Duo.
Yeah, Duo, like you said. Trap Death Shoots are kind of expensive now. Dekoichi the Battle Channel Locomotive, while it was reprinted as super rare in the Battle City box, it is, I think the supers are like 20-ish, and
Commons are $5 or $6, aren't they?
yeah, the commons are like 5 to 6 at least. Even, which I guess you can always run Mystic. Is it Mystic Box? Mystic.
Oh, Dark Mimic.
Dark Mimic. That's what it is.
Yeah, Dark Mimic. Yeah, the Dark Mimic package.
Yeah, it's an alright replacement. Although that really goes in more like a Chaos Control. Anyway, so past Go format. Moving on to the next retro format that we want to talk about in depth, which is...
Before we move on to that, just real quick, I want to say that our sponsor, ETB, on rare occasions, does in fact have GOAT tournaments.
That is true. That's a great segue. So, ETB Games in Alexandria, Louisiana, they are our sponsor. You can find them at etbgames.com. You can find them on TCG Player. They do regular monthly tournaments. This month's tournament was actually a GOAT format tournament. The winner was Warrior Toolbox. You can find the deck profile at our sister channel of the winner, which is Team Darkroom Dealings. Their link will be in the description below. So they have the deck profile for the winning the winning deck. It's a cool setup. They do advanced sometimes. They do GOAT tournament sometimes. I think there's even plans to talk about our next format, which is 2011 Plant Synchro. But they support a lot of different things, and they support things for every different card game at ETB. They support Yu-Gi-Oh! They support Pokemon. They obviously Magic, tabletop games.
They also do in fact support Digimon too.
Absolutely. And then if you're local, if you can shop online, which would help them out immensely, which is awesome. But you also, if you're not just local, but like if you're in like a 3-hour-ish drive, you're passing through whatever. You can stop in, charge your phone, hang out, play video games. They have consoles, they have TVs. It's just a great place to relax, hang out, and just chill, talk about whatever nerdy thing you're interested in, basically. They'll embrace you with open arms. It's a wonderful environment, and I would recommend that everybody check them out. like I said, their website will be in the description below, etbgames.com. And from here, though, I think we're going to go ahead and move on and talk about some Plant Synchro format.
Oh yeah, boy.
So this is a format that has been popularized recently. People like Pack have been playing it a lot. People like Jesse Cotton have been playing it a lot. They say that this is actually a more skillful format than Goat in a lot of ways. And in a lot of ways it is. It's not nearly as solved as Goat is. Most people just copy either Billy Brake or Patrick Hoban's list from the topping events of that time and play that, which is fine. I mean, if everybody's playing the same list, then the more skillful player wins like 8 times out of 10, depending on sackiness. But
I know. I mean, especially with Plant Synchro, because there wasn't a whole lot of sackiness to be had.
yeah, it's a lot slower format than people might remember. It's slower than Goat.
Like, a very common first turn is a normal summon Thunder King Ryo, set some back row, pass.
Yeah, or just like normal summon Tour Guide, Special Sangan, pass with on that. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Or you might realistically just pass on an empty board because Gores is in the format.
And Dragodia.
Yeah, I mean, like, realistically, you can pass on an empty board and your opponent might not even attack you out of pure fear of Gores. So, it's a very interesting time in the game's history. There are some decks that are better than others. Generally, Plant Synchro is considered the best deck, although there's an argument to be made for Chaos Agents and TGs exist. There's some other decks that exist and are playable. But
I'm taking a look at just because I don't have that much experience with the format. I'm taking a look at a little master post, a Reddit master post here. Looks like a YCS that happened during this time was YCS Providence. Looks like there's a lot of viable strategies here. I mean, obviously, like Tengu Plant has 8 tops, but like you said, one of them was actually playing a TG engine. There's 6 Samurai had topped a lot during this era. Like there were 5.
Yeah, this
Sams
was after the 6 Sam structure deck had released. They had gotten their own dedicated synchro. They could spam the counters on the gateway of the 6.
Oh, right. It was the first 6 Sam structure. I was like, wait, what? Because the second one gave them an exceed.
Right. Yeah, so the first 6 Sam structure deck, I think, gave them Great Shogun Shien, maybe, or I don't know. I don't know exactly what it did.
Yeah, it's like, no, it was just a legendary 6 Samurai Sheen.
Oh, yeah.
Like you said, there's Agents, Chaos, Machina Gadget, Anti-Meta, which I assume is Thunder King Ryo. There's a Fish deck that topped this YCS.
Yeah. Oh, Fish.
That's the best.
They would also run the anti-meta is also like Fossil Dynapachycephalo. Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah. There's Gravekeeper, X-Sabers, Scrap, Blackwing, Fabled. There's a Herald Ritual deck.
Lots of things are technically
like
possible. Yeah.
They're like people have tops. It looks like people have topped during this format with Worms. So even though like there's clearly some better decks, it seems like you could play a lot, which is kind of similar to Goat, but this probably has more interesting gameplay because it's
not only that, but like I said, the format is like a lot slower. People don't realize just how slow this format is. So, and the format that's most widely recognized as quote unquote 2011 Plant Synchro is I think it's September 2011 ban list maybe. And the kicker is it's everything released before Photon Shockwave, because Photon Shockwave was a bombshell in the game. It released Rescue Rabbit. It released certain wind-up cards that make the wind-up loop available. I mean, it really changed the game an enormous amount. But this format, you still have, I think it's 1 Debris Dragon. You have one of a lot of the generically good cards from the format. And a lot of people consider the deck, I think at the start of the format, they said, oh, well, plants are dead. And plants, I think, at the first event of the format ended up topping like almost half the format, almost half the field.
Lone Fire plus Glow Up Bulb or Spore is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Spore is just an unbelievably stupid card. Even like I don't have very much experience playing this past format, but for a time, pre-Link Cross ban, I had been experimenting with Plant Link. My God, even now without Dandelion, like the plant engine itself, it gets fragile, but like the power output capability is
Yeah, it's obscene.
absurd.
I no lie. Last time I played this format, I played it at a different locals actually that we go to. Steel Fox Gaming Shreveport. Shout out. We played it there, and I played against a guy, and I resolved Dandelion 4 times in one turn. That's not a turn. I resolved it 4 times. It was I want to say I activated 1-for-1, sent Dandy, got the tokens. Then I know at one point I Monster Reborned it. At one point I special summoned it back off of a debris normal summon and used it again there. That's 3. And maybe I Pot of Avarice and got it again and used it again somehow. It was insane. I literally used the card 4 times in one turn. I had never considered it possible. But oh yeah, it's crazy. But that deck is insane. It really is. That whole format is. I like the format. I do. But if it's not exactly a Billy Bragg Plant Synchro mirror, or like a Plant Synchro mirror essentially, I kind of don't care. So, but the format's not solved. It's a great format if you want to go play a retro format. A lot of the cards are still really cheap. I know that Spores are a card to me that it looks like it could definitely get like bought out or something in the future if the format goes like Supernova like Goat
Definitely,
did.
especially the hollows.
Yeah, I think it's only 3 printings and only one of them is hollow. Like that's
the common's not too bad, but the hollow would jump up. The hollow, I think, has a bit of insulation because it was a tin.
Yeah.
Fair.
But even then, like,
but it could still go.
Yeah, but even then, a lot of the cards from the format are still really high. Like, you have all like the cool part about this format is even the extra deck stuff that's like universally played has like multiple printings. So you look at a card like Bionic Dragon of the Asper, like, oh, sure, you could get the DT Ultra, which is like, I got robbed here. I paid like over 200, but they're like 110, I think. But you could also get the Dual Devastator Ultra, which is pennies. Same thing with Trishula. Same thing.
I mean, you could also just get the Ice Barrier Structure deck that just came out fairly recently.
Oh, true. Yeah.
And get a common or super, whatever it is.
Yeah. It's really, and it still has Xyz in it. A lot of people, you always play like one Leviathan, Utopia, Steel Swarm Roach is coming, Leviair is around, but there's a lot of versatility and a lot of capability in the format. So,
like the only expensive, hard to get card in the entire format I can think of, off the top of my head, is Armory Arm.
I think those are like $10 max.
Yeah, but I mean, unless you're ordering offline, you're gonna be really hard pressed to find someone who has one.
Right. Tengus are actually kind of hard to come by. It's only got, I think, 2 printings, maybe 3.
One of them is a common.
Yeah, one of them is common from one of the Link structure decks.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
they're hard to just run across. You have to order them, which
pretty much. But
I loathe ordering things. So, oh, dude, I can't order things. I hate ordering.
It's my Yugo card, and I need it now.
Pretty much.
For me, I don't like ordering things from multiple places, so I'm sitting there waiting on multiple packages.
No, I want to inspect the card, especially since like I've recently gone on. I've gone on a bit of a kick recently. I've acquired a couple of Starlight Fair sheets. I've gotten the dual terminal. I've gotten a bunch of ulti Plant Synchro. Like my entire extra deck from my Plant Synchro deck is all ulti or dual terminal and stuff. Yeah.
Man's here to flex on his
The
podcast.
worst part is that it's all audio format. I can't even really flex like that. If you want to see my flex, get in the server. It's already in the flex zone. We have a whole zone for that, guys.
We literally have an entire section just for you to flex on people with your fancy card, with your fancy shiny cardboard.
Yep. Shameless plug. So, that said, it's a good format. It's incredibly skillful. Be ready though. these games are not fast. It is a slow format. I mean, if a game doesn't go like 10 turns, it was a fast game.
Like, a very common duel would be normal summon this monster, set 2 back row pass. My opponent's turn, they normal summon a monster, beat over for like 200 life points, pass.
Right, but that said, everything has a reason behind it. It's very, very, it's tons of decision trees, tons of options. If my opponent normal summons Tour Guide, special summons Sangan, passes, unless I have exactly Thunder King, I'm probably not going to kill the Sangan.
Oh, exactly. But you might run over the tour guide. Or
they have 3 back row. Dimensional Prison exists and is played in this format.
Oh, yeah.
Am I attacking? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have back row removal, but the format does have 3 MST, whereas GOAT format, you only have 1.
And Heavy Storm, I think.
Yeah, this format has Heavy Storm also. And this is the first format that BLS came back.
Yeah, so people have BLS too.
You have to consider it.
Well, there's lots of things you have to think about.
The new age whippersnappers of Yu-Gi-Oh! Can't remember a time when Dimensional Prison was limited on the Forbidden
Honestly,
List.
though, I mean, this is why when we talk about, I still harken back. This is the format that me and Caleb came into the game. So when I think about the Forbidden and Limited list, and people want the semi-limited list gone altogether, it like gives me an aneurysm, because for me, I remember Deep Prison being at 2. Torrential Tribute was at 2, which was wild because it was at 1 for the longest. You have things like those defensive cards that are at 2, and that just like makes a lot of sense to me. Like, I don't necessarily know that consistency cards are the best hit to 2, but I think a lot of the defensive staple cards being hit to 2 kind of is cool because it makes them to where you don't just hard play triple of everything and just hard draw it. Like, I think Droll to 2 would be kind of fine. Ash to 2, that's kind of fine. I know a lot of people are going to listen and call me an insane person, but
I'm listening, and I would call you an insane person.
You said you would or wouldn't?
My take is much more draconian. I abolish the semi-limited list.
I mean, okay,
Shouldn't exist anymore. Put Mally to 1 and just be done with it.
At least put it at 3. I'm fine with that.
No. Not with the new hero stuff coming, you can't.
Pretty much.
Fair. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. But what I will say, though, is I think that putting a lot of those defensive cards to 2 makes deck building a lot more interesting, and it makes the choices people make a lot more interesting because it frees up space in decks, and it really makes you consider what you do with that space.
Yeah, I think there's like an argument to do stuff like specific power hand traps to 2. Like, for example, I heavily disagree with the OCG putting Gamma to 2.
That's right.
There is no discernible
You have
reason
to run a
do
brick
that.
activated anyway.
But yeah, well, that's what I mean. The trade-off already exists to have the power that Gamma offers. But with something like Ash or like other power hand traps like Droll, maybe, because like you have to play different hand traps in your main. But I don't know. Like, I guess if you want to like make the equivalence of like 2 Mirror Force and 2 Deep Prison to 2 Ash and 2 Landia, sure. I don't think I like
Mirror
that
Force was
argument,
also
but I think that's
Mirror
probably
Force
the best
not long
one we've
after
got.
this also went to 2, which was a big deal.
Yeah.
Dark Hole was at 2 for the longest.
Dark Hole was limited too for quite a long time. Raigeki was
yeah, at this time Raigeki was like super banned.
Yeah,
Dark Hole was like at 1, and people were still like, do we want it at 1 or do we want to ban it? I don't know.
Yeah, and then they brought it up to 2 and everyone flipped their lid.
Yeah, everybody lost their minds. So
now everyone's like, Dark Hole, that's so spicy.
Yeah, why not?
Can't believe you're
you
playing
could
Dark
play Lightning
Hole.
Storm. Why are you playing Dark Hole?
Or Lightning Vortex.
No,
yeah, Lightning Storm. I always get too mixed up.
Yeah, I think everybody's made that mistake. So alternatively, if you don't want to play GOAT or Plant Synchro, there are a few other retro formats that exist, which is to say, all of them. Turns out you can play any format that you want at any given time. There's nobody saying you can't. But if you want the ones that are supported by the community, Edison format exists. I think it's fallen off a lot. People wanted to make it the new GOAT format, but I think everybody just kind of said, "What's that? You want to play a synchro format? Let's play 2011 Plant Synchro." So, it's there. There's an enormous amount of diversity in the format, but is it good? That's up for you. That's for you to decide. That's for the people to decide.
It's up for debate.
A lot of people love the format, but I've never played it. I don't have any experience. I would kind of, if I'm gonna look at the stuff here, I would kind of just rather play 2011 Plant Synchro. At least there's people that play that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've just got the top 8 breakdown of their most recent Rise of Edison tournament. I believe that happened June the 28th. So it seems like they do like every 3 months kind of thing. So we've got Lightsworn, a variant of Blackwings called the Vayu, the Emblem of Honor Turbo. No idea what that is. Diva Hero, so like kind of water hero.
Yeah, the whole point behind Diva Hero was to abuse Deep Sea Diva's usage with Miracle Fusion, to where you could like have the tuner accessibility of Deep Sea Diva. Deep Sea Diva is a tuner, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So you can have the tuner capabilities and versatility of that, or you could also have the board wipe presence of Absolute Zero.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
I mean, you could also just mash change, I think, any of them into...
I don't think mash change was around yet.
Mash change was
it's 2009.
Nope.
Yeah.
Whether or not a specific card was released at the time is kind of funky to me.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, and we did not do that much research. So, yeah, there's a lot of diversity in the format. If you want a diverse format to play in that's as close to GX being good as you'll get, this is it. Because it's not technically GX, but a lot of the GX cards didn't get good until after GX was already over. So,
like Hero,
Future Fusion,
Cyber Dragon. Well, no, Cyber Dragon in and of itself was amazing.
Okay, yeah, but as a supported archetype, it wasn't good until much later.
Exactly.
So, Six Samurai wasn't good until after the format ended. So, the other one that a lot of people like to play is 2014 format, which is basically whatever was legal at the Nationals in 2014. So a lot of people like Hand Artifact Trap Tricks, which is just Hat. A lot of people like Geargia. A lot of people like Mermail. There's a lot of playable decks in this format. Sylvans is a very popular deck this format.
Notably, this was the format that I started like playing the game kind of seriously. I wasn't really being serious, but I like played a lot. This I think was peak Dueling Network era. Is what I would
not Dueling
describe
Book,
this format as.
Dueling Network.
Yeah, this is like me 14, 15. I had this is the I am going to hijack some space here. I played at this time, and I did pretty reasonably well on some Dueling Network tournaments. So I think there was one season I was actually doing pretty well on the ladder. I was playing Jurak Control during Hat format. It was basically Dino Rabbit with one rabbit. And the thing that I had discovered about the format is that if everybody was playing Hat, if you opened a Jurek Guaiba and Forbidden Dress, Hat literally could not beat you. Because if they had a set fire hand, right? If they bottomless trap hole your Jurak Guaiba, you just dress, and then it can't be destroyed. And then when you attack a fire hand in the damage step, you activate Forbidden Dress, dropping your Jurak Guaiba down to 1100. And then their fire hand has 1000 defense. Fire hand can't trigger because it can't destroy the Guaiba because it's protected by Forbidden Dress. So they don't summon the ice hand. You summon out your Jurak Velo as your target. You overlay into Dolka. Now they can't trigger any of the
so you just win.
So, yes. So I had accidentally discovered an interesting anti-meta strat, despite being terrible at Yu-Gi-Oh! So I had a really fun. That was I think I loved that format a lot because you could play basically anything. It was a lot of tech play, and sometimes Hat would just sack you, and that was why it was kind of the best deck. But I love.
If you want a fun, interesting, and diverse gameplay, you could play you said Hat. You could play if you want something fast and Ruthless, you could play Mermail. If you want something a little bit defensive but still explosive, you could play Geargia. Or if you just want to go full combo, you can just play Sylvans. It's fine.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of my understanding of the format, right?
Yeah, Sylvan was very, I think, underrated, mostly because it was really, really hard.
Yeah, I heard it was. From what I understand,
So
Sylvan is big brain and Geargia is control.
Yeah. And you could play lots of different variants of stuff. Fire Fist was still popping up in and out there. I believe La
Yes.
Dolce had existed around this time, and it had started to make
Yes,
some
yes.
splashes.
This is Madolce's first
Um,
ever time of relevance.
Yep.
Yep. So there's lots of stuff you could do. You could also just play like trap cards, beats. You could do lots of
Gotcha.
interesting stuff.
So that
yeah.
will pretty much wrap us up for retro formats. From here, we're going to talk about a few odds and ends. This will wrap us up for the episode after we do this. But, of course, we now have to give the floor to the Highlander, which is Mr. Hawk. Let's talk about Highlander format. Why don't you tell us
All
at
right.
first just what is Highlander, what makes it unique, and what does it mean to you? And take as long as you want here, because this is, I think, interesting.
Cool. Yeah, I'll try not to make it too crazy, but alternate Highlander-ish formats are kind of what got me to the level of understanding and technical play that I have. So it does mean a lot to me in terms of my growth as a player and as a person in the community. So Highlander as a concept kind of comes from Magic, but the idea behind Highlander format is you can only play one of each card. And in a game like Yu-Gi-Oh, that leads to really interesting deck building decisions for a few different reasons. Firstly, you suffer a massive loss of consistency if you're playing archetype cards. And that's something that a lot of people, I personally like the fact that you have a lot of different archetypes that can work with each other, but I know a lot of people have criticism of the game. That is, archetypes have ruined Yu-Gi-Oh because you don't have like that old style resource gameplay that some of these older formats might offer you. So Highlander is kind of an interesting solution to that problem, where you can still play all the new tools, but you suffer consistency loss because you can only play one of each card. And consistency is one of the things that makes like archetypes good, is because you can access a bunch of cards with the same name that work with each other. The other thing that Highlander does is it lets a lot of cards that normally wouldn't see lots of play. Not only just because of the speed and the tempo and the pace of formats is much different, but also because you can find cards that kind of do the same thing but don't really. So like people might play more unique back row removal combinations. Like maybe Galaxy Cyclone might sneak into some lists, or Night Beam, depending on what gets played in the format. Stuff like interesting battle tricks might be better in a format like this. So people might play stuff like Punch in the Box as an upgrade to Magical Arm Shield. People might find new archetype synergies that work well together because they have to by necessity to play some of the cards. So Highlander is basically like you play one of, just to sum it back up again, you can only play one of each card. Only one Soul Eating Oviraptor, only one Ash Blossom, only one Lancia, only one Raigeki. Basically everything is limited, aside from if like a format bans stuff specifically. In terms of like where you can play Highlander formats online, there isn't really, as far as I'm aware, a community that's like Highlander Yu-Gi-Oh, no other stipulations, one of everything, go nuts. I don't really think that exists. You can do it because it's kind of fun. Yu-Gi-Oh itself actually has a card that references this style of play. It's called the Orbital Hydrolander.
I've literally never heard of this card.
No.
Okay, so I'll read you the effect of this card. Hydrolander is like a it's kind of cool because it's like Yu-Gi-Oh's love letter to what a Highlander deck is, and it sees a lot of play in Highlander formats. But the idea, Hydrolander is obviously a reference to Highlander. It's a big Chumbo 3000. Can't be normal summoned or set. It must be special summoned from your hand by having 5 or more monsters in your graveyard, but none of their monsters in the graveyard can have the same name. So obviously it's like the idea is that it works with Highlander decks because you're not going to have cards with the same name. And then once per turn, as a quick effect, you can send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard to destroy a card on the field. And you have to have at least 2 monsters in your graveyard, and no monsters in your graveyard can have the same name to activate.
This is hilarious.
So that means yeah. So this card is like super broken in Highlander formats
I'm assuming he sees
because it is
he sees a
almost
ton of
always
play.
live. Yes, yeah. I think it might be banned in Trinity format. Like I know there are some places that ban it, but some places have it just because it's like, this is funny. It's funny that in the right now there were some BA lists that actually unironically played this in advanced, because quite often you could manip your graveyard, and it was just like a really big body that you could play. Yeah, and a lot of their deck building was kind of a bunch of crazy one-ups anyway. So it was either like a free extender or it was removal and a big body to help OTK. So it's all play in some Sekka's Light lists. Anyway, so where can you play Highlander-ish formats? I know of 2.5. 2 of them are big, and one of them I don't remember if it's a Highlander format, but it's really funny. So I guess the first one is Trinity format. Trinity is kind of the thing that dragged me into competitive play. It's the thing that got me back into Yu-Gi-Oh! I was playing Trinity format before I played Advanced again. I didn't play Advanced again until Misk came back to 3 off the list. But in the time that I was away, I was playing Trinity. So how Trinity works is it's a Highlander format, but with a twist. So they've changed the minimum deck size. The minimum deck size is now 30 cards instead of 40. So that offers you some consistency change. But they have this thing called the Trinity. And the Trinity is you can add 5 cards to your deck to play a duplicate of any card. So for example, if I was to play 35 cards, I could play 2 copies of Soul Eating Overraptor. If I was to play 40 cards, I could play 3 copies of Soul Eating Overraptor. And if I played 45 cards, I could play 3 Overraptor, and then I could play a second copy of Miscellaneousaurus, all the way up to 60. So it becomes a very interesting thing where you're making deck building decisions. Okay, I want to more consistently access this part of my engine, but I am sacrificing the consistency of my entire deck because everything else is all one-ofs, and you're now increasing your deck size to much higher levels to play duplicates. So you have to make like even more interesting deck building decisions than you would in a Highlander format. And you have more options because some of those archetype decks can now push to 40, 45, 50 cards and see a bit more of their engine. Because even if you're pushing to 50, you're seeing that engine more consistently than any other deck is seeing that engine if they're back down at 30.
Right. So
you see like decisions that get made are like you could play like a 30 card deck, all staples, all gas, go ham, or you could see like different decisions. The way that works also gives them a really cool custom ban list angle. They have cards that they have at what's called a half point and full point. So you can add 5 cards to your deck to pick any 2 cards on the half point list and put them in your deck. It's basically just like a consistency tax to access some cards that are too powerful for decks that play like 30 cards. So you could play, if a 40 card list could play a second copy of Overraptor and then 2 half point cards. Then there are full point cards, which are strong enough, which are not strong enough that they would ban them outright, but there are also cards that you have to play you have to play 10 cards to access, I believe. So it's they're really strong. You can build decks around them, but they have to extend. The other way that Trinity changes how it's played, and it actually plays a lot like 2011 Plant Synchro, just with a bit more modern tools, is there's a summon limit inherent in the rules of the game. So you can't summon effect monsters more than 3 times per turn. So by the rules of the game, it limits combo. You can still play combo, but you have to do it in a very roundabout way. It's less high roll, and so games by default have a lot more back and forth to them. So it's a Highlander format, but you can make decisions to change how Highlander works at the cost of consistency. It's got a custom list system that allows cards that might be too strong in other Highlander formats to exist at the cost of consistency. And it's got a summon limit, which means that games are inherently going to be more interactive and less high roll. Really
the summon
cool
limit is kind of necessary also, because it limits somebody just opening a broken hand and your opponent not having time to get into those one-ofs.
Exactly.
The deeper you think about that, the
that.
better it really is for the format.
Yes, and not just that, it allows older decks to interact with newer ones. It lets you play an old strategy, you get to play you can play stuff like X-Saber and play it against a Despia deck. Because the cards themselves are limited by that summon limit. So a lot of the newer decks, stuff that spams is kind of punished for doing so. It can only make more mid-range plays, whereas stuff in TCG that might not be as viable, so like S-Force, for example, is quite good in Trinity. Because it makes more minimal plays, they don't summon that much. So a bunch of different strategies can be played. Right now, like I can tell you historically what was good when I was playing. Orcust builds were quite good. Dinosaur, but very different dinosaur that you were looking at. Cyber Dragon, Pacifist. There was a deck called Giant Ballpark, which was a 60-card amalgamation of Giant Ballpark, Insect, Pacifist, and Dinosaur. That was the best deck for a couple of formats. There were all sorts of weird... A lot of it is like established decks, but built in vastly different ways. People were like... just a bunch of very strange staples tended to exist. Zombie Control was really, really sick. You got to like go deep into the like zombie playables, do stuff like Fraulein and Samurai Skull and Ill Blood, and go deep into the pool of those. Right now, I think the best deck is like some 60-card like Spellbook Pendulum deck. That's like plays a bunch of insane garbage. There's if you want to like, if anybody watching wants to find out about Trinity format, they have a Discord, they've got a YouTube channel on ygoprodeck.com. You can see a bunch of old topping lists. There are some articles that I have sections of written because I have won a lot of Trinity tournaments. Just a very interesting gameplay experience if you want something different from the TCG that doesn't like limit you from modern tools.
So, for those also that are looking for a place to play Highlander specifically, just now while you were talking, Mr. Hawk, I may or may not have added an entire Highlander text channel, and
Nice.
everybody is welcome to discuss it there as well as play it in our duel rooms in our server. So, just saying, it's there.
Nice.
We're happy to have you if you want to play Highlander here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah. The other two like Highlander-ish formats I'll run through quick. I'll be faster than Trinity just because Trinity is more important to like me personally. But an X mod of the Trinity format, Meet Moto 27, made a format that's been a side event at some of the Chalice monthlies called Histlander. It's more traditional Highlander. It doesn't have like a deck building rules like the add 5 cards or whatever. So it's like I believe the min deck size is still 30, but it might be 40. I can't remember. But how Histlander works is you build 2 different decks. You build the deck from Classic Era, which is like 2004 or whatever, to 2012, and then you build a Modern Era, which is like 2013 to 2021. You pick 2 years in Classic and Modern in a row, so like 2006 and 2007, or 2017, 2018, and you build deck. You can only build the deck with cards that were printed in those 2 years. So it's like it's a historical Highlander. So for example, I played 2011 or 2012, 2013 Dino Rabbit and 2017, 2018 Dinosaur.
Oh.
You can, yeah. So with like modern tools, right? So you do, and matches are like whoever wins the dice roll picks if the first match gets played Classic or Modern, and then the other person. Oh yeah, that's how it works. So, you do your rock paper scissors, right? The person who wins rock paper scissors gets to choose either to go first or second, or to play Classic or Modern, and the other person gets to pick the other thing. So if you win the dice roll and you choose to play Classic, your opponent gets to choose first or second.
I love
if you choose first, your opponent chooses Classic.
That's super cool.
Yeah. It's very cool. I highly recommend checking it out. The people who run it are awesome. MBT plays sometimes. Absolutely just freaking fantastic group of people to play with. They run monthly tournaments, so there's always people to play. You can ping. It's a really cool community. And then the last one, I guess a side note for other Classic formats, there's a GOAT adjacent format MBT runs called the Reaper format. You should So there's tons of content on that. Don't have to go deep in, but Reaper's cool.
For those that
The
won't know
last
what
interesting
is,
format.
though, that format is the format directly after Go format, where all the Saki high roll cards got banned. And there's a lot more interplay, and
That
it's still
nuclear ban list. Oof.
there's a lot more interplay, but still like the same general concept. So
pretty much. The last format. I don't know if this is Highlander. I haven't checked it out in a hot minute, but I know the community is still fairly active. It's run by Jaxel MS. It's called the Alphabet format. This is a really funny old format. You can only play cards in your deck that start with the same letter of the alphabet.
Oh, that's hilarious. You can play an all A deck,
So-
an all B deck, whatever. Oh, got it. ABC,
Yes.
not a
Yeah.
playable deck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's interesting what decks become unplayable because of the restriction, what decks are way better because of the restriction, and what decks are like nerfed but still playable. And what's also, I think, the most interesting aspect about the format is that while a lot of archetypes end up being playable, a lot of their adjacent support sometimes ends up not being a thing. For example, in a Fluffle deck, you can't play polymerization. You could play fusion substitute, but you can't play poly.
Oh, that's hilarious. Best one yet.
Because of
There's-
penguin.
Yeah.
There's a full everything.
Oh yes. Yeah, exactly. So you can, and the thing is, Fright for Patchwork actually can still search fusion substitute because its name is considered to be polymerization. So it's technically still playable. But the other problem is you can't play any of the edge imps because they start with E.
Oh,
So a whole bunch of decks have just these insane restrictions put on them. And the other really cool thing is that staple cards entirely revolve around the letter of the deck you choose to play. So like if you play Lightsworn, you can play Lightning Storm, no Dark Hole, no Ash Blossom, no Effect Veiler. But if you play an E deck, you can play Effect Veiler, but Torrential Tribute, no dice. Virtual World can't play very many good cards. Because there aren't very many like major staples that start with V. So a lot of like really high roll decks are balanced out by the fact that they have to play garbage cards to fill out the
hold
space.
on. I just had a hilarious
it's-
thought. Quillport's off in the corner crying.
Yeah,
These are cute.
exactly. Yep, no towers for you because it starts with
With
A.
power starts with A too.
Exactly.
Also, that deck's unplayable.
Sacrifice starts
Also,
with
no
S.
Wendy for shit all.
Oh, this is reach it all. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also, like, if you play a main deck Shadal monster, can't play any of the El
Yep.
Shadal monsters because
Oh,
they're
that,
set with E.
wow.
Yeah, you also can't play Ariel or Genius.
Lightsworn can't play Judgment Dragon. There's all sorts of bizarre things that
Wow.
happen.
But Blackwing seems
Yeah, so
And Medolce.
weird, Gia.
yeah, that's yeah. Well, there's lots of like good decks, but those good decks are still limited in their access to staples. So stuff that's good is kind of inherently like balanced around that, which is kind of sick. But yeah, that's all the alt format knowledge. I
Yeah,
have.
well, I mean, that's a lot of really fun old formats to play, though. As far as like super interesting, like community-driven formats, those are like that's the greatest hits, though, right?
Yep. Yeah, and as like a small note, I will say if you want a place to practice your technical play, joining one of these weird deck building formats is the way to do it. I would not nearly be the level of player that I am had I not spent a lot of time playing Trinity format, having to build around a bunch of one-ups,
Confident much?
and having to like do resource games, do like it's like a unique deck building exercise. It makes you think about the game way differently. And those resource decisions matter a whole lot more there. So when those resource decisions come up in a TCG game, you get a lot bigger swings when you get those right and when you make those reads correctly. So playing in these formats is one of the best ways to improve, in my opinion. Because while you don't get the metagame practice of playing the TCG, you get the raw, like, turn by turn. If I make the wrong decision, I'm falling really far behind. I need to use these cards in a unique way. I have to deck build to beat a deck full of 41 ofs. How am I going to do that? It's a very unique experience, and it absolutely crafted me into be the level of player that I am today. Wouldn't be
Wow,
nearly what I
confident
am
much?
otherwise.
But I mean, it also forces you to kind of then also.
If you don't laugh at it, then it's just mean.
Yeah. It's not even a confidence thing. I sucked. I was terrible at this game. I was so bad. My first locals ever, I thought I couldn't use the effect of Miscellaneousaurus under Abyss. Like, I thought I could use the graveyard effect of Misk under Abyss Dweller because it banished for cost. Like, those interactions don't come up as often in TCG matches. They come up a ton when there are a bunch of 41 ofs and you have to learn all the intricacies of how, like, 200 different cards work. It's not even a confidence thing. Like, the reason that I can call myself a reasonable player today is because I was terrible for years playing
Right.
these.
Yeah, and I know that for sure. I mean, you were just a bubble player to YCS not like a month ago, you know? Like,
oh yeah. Anyway, but like another thing that all these different formats also is force you to look at cards you'd probably just have lying around your bolt not doing anything. And then whenever something comes up, a new card comes out, you're like, wait a minute, this has a hilarious interaction with this one card I read because that I never would even thought of. Like,
it is so much fun. It is so much fun to get to just read all these cards.
Oh yeah. And so then you kind of then just start pulling weird interactions out of your rear end.
Yep, absolutely. For example, I am the reason mostly that Lost World and Pankratops were both banned in Trinity format. Turns out Lost World is really broken in interactions with normal monsters because the most powerful play in Trinity format at one point was Rescue Rabbit Lost World 2-card combo. Because you would Rescue Rabbit as your one effect monster summon. You would summon out 2 vanillas, and you would just go straight to the end phase. In the end phase, Rescue Rabbit attempts to destroy the monsters, but Lost World protects them. So you would destroy both Baby and Petite. You'd summon Oviraptor to get a Misk, and then you use the Petite to summon Pankratops. So you've ended on 2 monsters, 2 big vanillas that can't be destroyed. Attack being reduced, by the way, so they're basically 2,500 attack. You can protect them with your Lost World. You've got an Oviraptor in cycle, you've got your Misk in hand for follow, and you have Pankratops as a disruption. So you've gone like +4 while staying under the summon limit. So Lost World was banned pretty quick because that was too broken. That's the kind of interaction stuff that can come up when you're playing these formats.
Yeah, that's something you just never see in regular Advanced. That's so cool. So cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to think. Are there any other formats to talk about here, or are we pretty much just covered? Well,
like
everything.
The only one I can think of that we didn't talk about is Dragon Ruler format, but
let's not talk about that.
People do technically subject themselves to hell.
I don't know why.
That is correct.
I think it's because if you really want to be technical about it, okay. Dragon Ruler format specifically is a very interesting format because the resource management required in a Dragon Ruler mirror, and there is resource management to be had there, I promise, is pretty interesting because going second, you're not exactly going to TK your opponent because they probably ended on like Dragosack, multiple tokens, just a full board plus like Vanity's Emptiness. And going first is kind of easy because it's kind of difficult because, well, you also can't kill your opponent. So there's definitely some back and forth. There's definitely a bit more back and forth than people might give it credit for. Sure, the format's kind of wild, but at the end of the day,
there are 3
there's 2
decks. No, there are 3. No. You will not perform Evil Swarm Erasure in this house. Evil Swarm had tops.
Okay, so there's 2.5 playable decks.
Let's just split the difference. 2.5, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Technically. Well, if we're going to technically, there's a bunch of playable decks, but when you're in a format where Dragon Ruler represents probably like 60% of the format, and Spellbook represents as close to 40 as you can get.
It was like 60, 35, 5. and the 5% was Evil Swarm.
Yeah, just because of an interesting format interaction, right? So like,
Yeah, can't summon the dragon rulers under
Right.
Ophion. Was
Yeah.
the interaction?
But the thing about the Dragon Ruler format is that when you're in what was essentially by most people considered a tier 0 format, even though I know technically it wasn't, I'm very, very well aware. I played in the format, you know. I say that with air quotes. I played and whatever. I was in the game at the time. There is some intricacy in the Dragon Ruler mirror specifically. Anytime you're playing like a tier 0 format, like a lot of people, some people like to play Teledad. Some people like to play Pepe. Nobody likes to play Spiral. But when you play those tier 0 formats, there is a certain amount of intricacy in the resource management required. So it's interesting, I think. So I wouldn't play it, but it's interesting, I guess. I know I'm not making a channel for that. So
yeah.
But I think that'll wrap us up for tonight, boys. Thank you so much for coming on again, Giant Skyhawk. Is there anything you want to plug in particular? I know technically you're a content creator. You have some videos somewhere, right?
Somewhere other, yeah. You can find me on YouTube, Skyhawk or Giant Skyhawk. There will be more stuff there soon, I promise. Some Fluffle tutorials, most likely, and some how to plays. Maybe some updated dino lists. Go, if you're interested in these, find me on Discord or Twitter. I can send you the links to the Trinity of the Histlander Discords. Admins are excellent people. The formats are still active, running, and cool. So if you want some different experiences, check it out. And join the Top Cut Podcast Discord. It's called the Top Cut server. There's remote duels that happen here occasionally. People chatting here are usually pretty nice. We've got lots of experienced players and some newer players. And the people hosting this podcast are awesome. It's always a blast to be on. Come join and hang out.
Well, thank you so much for plugging us. We always appreciate that because the more people that know about this server, the better. We decided to make this server, and it was kind of a decision that we went back and forth about quite a bit. But after the debate, we decided to do it, and we're so glad we did. It was probably the best decision we've made since actually starting the podcast itself. The community that is building here is phenomenal. The people that are here, they're so wonderful. I love everyone to death. You can always catch some remote duel games if you want to practice for tournaments, whatever. People have EDO Pro, Dueling Book, whatever you want to use. People are always willing to oblige. We have a great mod team here that does a lot of work. Sometimes you'll see us. We have a little recording studio here, which is how we do our remote recordings. But sometimes you can see us literally as we record, like hopping in with guests and stuff. It's a really cool place to hang out. It's a cool place to talk about everything related. You can just interact with anything nerdy. We also have Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, Digimon, anime, music, video games, whatever you want to talk about. We have channels for it. We have a whole marketplace that you can come to and buy, sell, trade cards. I mean, it's a place that we try to make as inclusive as possible for any part of the community that we could. So, thank you to all the people that have joined for making that possible. So, in closing, we ask that you please join the Discord server. You can find links to the server in the description below, as well as you can find it on our Twitter page, which you should also go follow at Top Cut Podcast. Make sure to go back, listen to some older episodes. If you're new here, we did some awesome interviews with some people. We've done some awesome breakdowns, things of that sort, that just kind of, there's no expiration date on them. They're always good to listen to. We ask that you, if you're on Apple iTunes, be sure to follow or subscribe, whatever they're using now these days. Also, leave us a rating and a review. It helps us out tremendously with any kind of an algorithm there. If you're on Spotify, you can follow us. Please be sure to check out Giant Skyhawk in whatever he's doing. You can follow him on Twitter, I think at Giant Skyhawk on Twitter. Is that right?
It's at
Okay,
Skyhawk
so at
Sings.
Skyhawk Sings on Twitter. There's always some interesting insight. And anytime he announces what he's going to be on, I know you were on Fifth Rate Duelists, which is Zara Khan. You were on her stream recently. She had a 12-hour charity stream, and you did an entire breakdown about how to play Fluffle and things of that sort, I believe.
Yeah, that's on her channel. You can see that now. Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, I kind of wander around the community. So if you're around the online space, you'll probably
for sure. And super approachable too, which we appreciate, because if you weren't so approachable, we would not have you as a mod in our server. So
I mean, I think you guys and a lot of other spaces like Shige's, like Zara, like MBT, online space has gotten a lot more welcoming to new people and returning players alike. It's been a lot more positive. There have obviously been some problems, but the online space as a whole is really starting to develop into a really great place for everyone. So if I'm around, I just try to help contribute to that.
And thank you so much for all that you do to that. I appreciate it. So, well, thank you everybody for listening. That'll wrap us up for today. We want to wish everybody a good day.
Yep. Take care, everybody.